I think we are very well known. We are amongst the top few players who use, like you said, crack the code on the GC and the design and build side. We are transforming the way we are doing our business, and digital is a big part of that. Digital will enable all of that. I very clearly see high single digit ROI to be achieved by adopting a lot of these measures. We are seeing some success. We have seen some success already.
It is interesting to understand that when you're going about digitalization and setting up a transformation vertical, what should be the KPIs or the goals that you progress on or measure your success with?
So one thing which became very clear is that a lot of this operational data needed to come together. For any meaningful analysis, for any correlation, it had to come together. So that became an imperative. What RDash is allowing us to do is we now have all of that data to start looking at the productivity gains. Just because we have all of that data now, it allows us to question, and the numbers will definitely tell you a story.
Can you break down the project journey from your lens? What generally are the missing links or the breakpoints where the opportunities are there to be grabbed through digitalization?
So one thing that I see in this space is that there is an HO entity and there is a site entity, and there is a lot of disconnect between the two. HO rarely visits the site visits the office when there is an issue. But when you get into the nitty-gritties, you realize that yes, there are connections which are missing, which need to be established.
When you look at it from the lens of a project manager, you need to punch your data here in this format. And this guy believes that, okay, management is asking me to log numbers, which is of no use to project delivery. That's a tacit, unsaid feeling. I'm sure you must have experienced it. How do you convince your project managers around the merit of doing this?
My general take is people contemplate far too long saying, should I implement technology or should I continue the way I am? And I go back to the same example. You've started ordering your groceries and your food on technology, and you're still doing business manually. It doesn't make intuitive sense, right? It will be a journey that you will have to undertake. You may not see results on day one, but you've got to go on that path.
Before we get into the conversation deeper, what role technology is playing and how you're approaching it, why don't you tell us a little bit more about Ambience Interior? While it's a reputed firm, I know it very well, but maybe some of our viewers may want to know what is the context here, what kind of company we're talking about.
Certainly, I'd love to. So Ambience, we just completed 25 years of our incorporation in June this year. We had a grand celebration. We now have upwards of 50 million square feet of fit outs under our belt, close to 500 companies, large companies that we've touched with our services. I think we are very well known. We are amongst the top few players who you've, like you said, cracked the code on the GC and the design and build side. Our name comes up whenever there is a large RFP out there. And
Yes.
Our focus essentially is we are very, very client focused. I've seen the company management in meetings with absolute total focus on what the client needs. We don't do penny pinching. When it comes to meeting client needs, irrespective of what the numbers showed or what they can show, etc., etc. So we are very clear. We are very clear that we are about to make a mark in this space. I mean, we made a mark, but we are expanding our service in this space. We have always had for many years now our own manufacturing units, but just this year we opened up a new factory near Gurgaon. So that gives us a lot more leeway in the design and build scope. So materials is an exciting space, as everyone knows in this space.
So definitely, I also do believe that some of the very good projects I've seen Ambience Interior in all major RFPs, when the RFP size is upwards of, let's say, 500,000 square feet or let's say 100,000 square feet. So definitely one of the most reputed company here. Dheeraj, one thing very peculiar about Ambience Interior is not many company in the design build space, in the commercial fit out space, has this vertical to start with, this transformation vertical that you are leading, right? Where this journey started for Ambience Interior, where the company got serious about that they now need to look at technology adoption.
Technology has or adoption of what is the new age technology is not a very recent phenomenon for Ambience. I recall that Ambience was one of the first companies in India to get onto a specialized ERP, and that I'm talking about 2016-17. When the industry was far less organized than it is right now. So we've been using an ERP since then. We've upgraded our ERP since then. But over last 2.5 years, the focus became very, very clear that if we have to differentiate, if we have to become more competitive, we can choose to be competitive ourselves, or the market will force us to. So we have taken this step voluntarily. You spoke about how we've set up a team for ourselves. Yes. So, we are transforming the way we are doing our business, and digital is a big part of that. Digital will enable all of that. We can't do it otherwise. But there are other segments, like, focusing on our people, focusing on our core processes. So we're doing all of that, but technology is going to enable all of that. Absolutely, without any doubt.
So this vertical that you're heading, the transformation vertical, what are the key KPIs and the goals? Because some of the viewers who are joined with us or will be looking at this video would be the promoters who are running design build setup at the mid-size segment. So it is interesting to understand that when you're going about digitization and setting up a transformation vertical, what should be the KPIs or the goals that you progress on or measure your success with?
So very clearly, the goals are, and I'll just talk maybe top two, three. The goals are become efficient from where we are, from the baseline, and deliver a significant, cost reduction. So that would make us more profitable, and it will make us more competitive. So there may be business that we don't see as worth getting into, but doing it more efficiently allows us to expand into such spaces. So that's one. Second is, we are modernizing our entire org. So we are looking at how we treat our people. We are looking at how we hire our people. We're looking at all of that. Technology will favor a very strong resource bench. So these two things are very, very clear. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to share what kind of number goals we have set, but we have very clear targets of what this exercise and initiative must start delivering, 12, 16 months onwards.
Okay, so it's basically no failure acceptable kind of a scenario that you're working at. You have to get this right.
I think we may have to make some retreats. So I wouldn't call that failure. There are certain sections, which I don't understand. I have up until 15 months ago, I had not been to a commercial fit-outs, site for more than a couple of hours when we were visiting as a client, and we were just being showcased what we wanted to be shown, right? But I now visit a site at least once every week, maybe spend 4 to 6 hours. So I wouldn't call failures, but we'll make retreats. We may end up making some missteps, but we'll retreat when there is a need to. There is a lot to learn, and there is a lot to unlearn as we go along.
Okay, so basically you are saying that it is not necessary to have a clear financial number targets to go in this direction. The need is so strong and the ROI is so apparent that you can start on qualitative objectives and then build in the ROIs along the way as you progress.
No, I would complement it by saying that there is very clearly an ROI case. Whether we know, and when I say we, I mean in the industry, whether the industry knows its P&L month after month or not, or maybe it gets to know the real deal after the project has closed and it's been done for 3 months. I very clearly see high single-digit ROI to be achieved by adopting a lot of these measures. We are seeing some success. We have seen some success already. There is a lot of drain that happens across all stages. The projects run for what? Large projects can take up to 12 months, but the smaller ones run for 3, 6, 9 months at best, right? It's everything is happening very fast. No occupier wants to wait. They will take 3 years to lease a building, wait for 3 years for it to get constructed. But when it comes to fit out, they want to move in yesterday, right? Yes. So there is almost no time. So your processes need to be so refined over a period of time, so known to your people that you can hit the ground running. Right. So I'm not saying we are there, but we are taking all the right steps to be in that direction.
Oh, I can definitely vouch for that. We have been working together for the last 6 months, and I can see the energy and the progress. Yeah. So we'll get there where we want to, but the progress so far is definitely exciting. Now, Dheeraj, as you said, you are visiting a lot of sites, and technology being the fundamental or being the stepping stone around all the transformation that we will be doing at Ambience. Can you break down the project journey from your lens? what generally are the missing links or the breakpoints where the opportunities are there to be grabbed through digitization.
So for a moment, we leave the hard numbers aside, but one thing that I see in this space is that there is an HO entity and there is a site entity, and there is a lot of disconnect between the two. HO rarely visits the site, site visits the office when there is an issue. When they can't get their POs out, when they can't get their payments out, and it's strange why it can't work so seamlessly. I mean, from the outside, you may feel that it's so simple, right? But when you get into the nitty gritties, you realize that yes, there are connections which are missing, which need to be established, and that's also because of the variety of work that we do. For a single project, there are hundreds of vendors that get engaged. Thousands of SKUs of material that get purchased. So to bring all of that together in a very synchronized fashion to deliver the output that we have promised, you're very, very focused on delivering the output which the customer likes. And then you make discounts to that in your internal process, because there is only so much bandwidth, so much energy that you can spend on a single project. So you make everything on the outside look so good, but that beats the inside. So from my perspective, when I started learning about what the key project life cycles are and where and when the action arises, is very clearly the first section is where you participate in an RFP, you do the negotiations, and you finally get awarded. There itself, once you realize that your true cost that allowed you to quote a price has taken a hit. So by the time you end up negotiating, and you've invested so much that you let go of that last bid and say, you know what, let me just do it because I've come this far. I have or I don't have the project visibility. So you sometimes take a hit there, right? And now you have to make up for it. And then it's a risky business. Risky meaning a lot of things change. In Delhi NCR, for example, we lose 2 to 3 months just in the winter timings for towards the pollution issue. One day you're up, 3 days you're down. It is easy to imagine, but very difficult to execute. So your labor goes away, you bring them back, your machinery rentals start. You start piling up your cost. So it becomes very risky from that perspective. Your cash flows get hit. Sometimes your purchases and your billing runs into a lag, and it all happens despite the most senior people managing it very, very closely, is because they can only do so much. When you're dealing with Excel files and WhatsApp and things like that, there is only so much that you control, and then rest is what causes the drain on the profitability as well as the cash flows. So first part is where you manage your BOQ, you quote a price, you manage the price somehow, then you execute. Through the execution, there are multiple stages. You do your procurement. Sometimes you lose money there. You subcontract. Sometimes subcontractors turn bad. They finish half the job and then run away. And a day, you lose on account of that, costs several days in the final output. And like I said, no one wants to wait for a day. Commitments are made, and the kind of clients we have, they have predefined their opening dates, their launch dates, right? So the global CEOs make their visits. So we really don't have too much time leverage.
Yeah, Dheeraj, so you touched upon multiple aspects here. You touched upon the financial risk and the cash flow exposure. You touched about linking your cash flows to progress. You talked about time delays. You talked about overheads piling up. So there are a lot of areas definitely for improvement. But just to organize and structure this conversation, let's divide it into key major buckets. First of all, let's start off by talking about how did you really approach digitization at ground zero? Like the key challenge when we work with lots of customers at RDash is that from the leadership, they have a clear alignment. They see the ROI, they see the value in doing it. But when the rubber hits the road, they get stuck, right? They don't know where to start. They don't know whether they want to track their projects first, or they want to digitize their procurement first, or they want to get hold of all the documentation, or they want to go to any qualitative objectives like snack managements and design coordination. So they really get stuck. They don't know how to start. They make a couple of attempts here and there, and then if it does not go through the way they intended, then they give up. they feel that maybe the technology is not right for me, or maybe my team is not equipped, and multiple other things that comes in their head, and then they give up, and then that's the major culprit behind the state wherein we are at currently in terms of digitization. So from your perspective, when you are driving all this digitization at Ambience, where did you actually start? And if you want to talk about some of the failed attempts in this journey, we can talk about that as well. And what really worked, we would want if you can share some crystallized understanding for our viewers, that what really worked for Ambience to do
Sure. So when I started several months back, frankly, I put on my auditor's hat and I said, okay, I pick up a project and I will track it from start to finish and see what is the margin we projected at the beginning and what did we end up making, and which were the factors that either gave me more or took money away. So I sat down and I was, I used to spend a couple of days in a week at Ambience. I was not an employee. I only had limited access to the data, and there was limited data in a readable format, right? Because everything was in some Excel file somewhere. So one thing which became very clear is that a lot of this operational data needed to come together, right? For any meaningful analysis, for any correlation, it had to come together. So that became an imperative. There is, you can't build on something beyond beyond this. This is the solid grounding. Then, like I said, I ended up making a walk for one of the projects, and it was eye opening for many people. And we realized that what, maybe 3 out of those 5 problems are solvable. 2 will hit them later, and 3 of those are very solvable because technology was becoming available then. So I think RDash became known to us much later. So early on, when I carried out my research, and obviously the company had made its investment in another platform like RDash, it hasn't gone far, because it didn't have all that we needed. But we figured out the big ticket items. Said, this is what we need to control. So we said, what, we need to control our labor costs. Very clear. We need to control how much we are buying, why we are buying so much, if we are left with so much unused material, and we need to look at how much are we wasting in that process. So these 3 or 4 things are big enough.
Yes, Dheeraj, I want to stop you there here for a second. Just want to be on the same page with you. So basically, on a very macro level, when you are approaching digitalization, there are practically 2 approaches. One approach is that you will follow the money trail, right? Wherever you are making a financial decision, you will bring some robustness, control, 360-degree visibility in that process, and then you overlay the financial processes with operational data intelligence to make smarter decisions. That's one way to go about this, and that's practically the way that you advocated that work for you. Another way is to start outside in, that you fix your project management, enable your project managers, and give them some tools to plan their activities, to report the progress, right? Do coordination designs, like things which are not touching the real flow of money, but are basically bring a lot of visibility and control in terms of operational progress between the mid management and the people on the ground. So, and we have also seen at RDash that the second approach almost never works. It never sticks, right? If you just think about that, I will enable the project managers on doing the task in a better organized manner, and don't supplement it by some control on the financial side, somehow the objective of digitization, the stickiness of digitization, gets trailed behind. So has it happened to you, or do you?
So,
and yeah,
you made a very interesting statement. So digitization for the sake of digitization would work if you have done it in the past, because you believe in the story, right? For some set of people who are doing it for the first time, they will need to see the proof beforehand, or at least the potential beforehand. So the first approach worked. We also did a few things on the second approach, but we realized soon enough that it needed to connect very well, because the glamour will go away very soon.
yeah,
The glamour of having an app and having an ERP will go away very soon. It will create more issues than solving. So, and
yeah,
the question to do is, you're doing it, but you need to answer what for. what do you gain project after project, year after year, is something that you may not have numbers, but if you don't even have the direction, then it's very difficult to follow that route.
Understood. Now, coming to what you were sharing previously, so far what we have crystallized from this conversation is, if you are approaching digitization in a commercial fit out setup, it's better to make your financial systems and processes robust and overlay that with operational data to see the real qualitative and quantitative impact in the shortest window, and to make the digitization stick. You can definitely do a lot of things on the other side in terms of excellence, but it's better that you first build the right foundation of flow of money, and then you overlay everything, every excellence objective on top. That's like a way to go. Now, if we talk about from your experience of last 1 year, what are the key wins? What are some of the key workflows that you feel, either quantitatively or qualitatively, that you feel that there was a definite merit in digitizing that workflow? And if you want to share how did you go about it, the practical challenges involved in that.
Before I do that, I'll just add one point to what just you said. I think it's a slight misnomer to say that the operational processes at the work site don't impact the financials. I think there's a very significant connection there. So I'm estimating what I need at my site, and I'm purchasing that from the HO. I'm controlling the price from HO, but I'm controlling the quantity from the site, right? And both end up either giving me some savings or bleeding me.
I'm just sharing from experience, and again for the benefit of viewers, what I really meant by that, when we start to implement RDash in any of the companies. So typically, the mindset that we see is the promoters and the leaders would say that, do not touch any of my core processes. Just bring me value by digitizing my operations. And when I say the operations, I'm not talking about this material quantification. I still consider that as a financial process because it's directly affecting the flow of money. I'm saying all the things which are currently on WhatsApp, they want to digitize and organize that data, like in terms of the site progresses, DPRs, and these kind of things. And from there, they expect that a lot of value will be unlocked. And our experience so far has been that yes, definitely there's a lot of value in that, because then your team will be better coordinated, your clients will be happier if you're reporting them right, you will have better tractability on your timelines and everything. But the problem with only looking at the second approach, only looking at the operational processes without touching the financial one, is that you are missing a checker in the system. You are enabling the maker, but you don't have any checker. So if the maker is, let's say, falling sick, or he's not motivated to do it, or he's not matching his work style, because a lot of people in sector are hardened by their tenure, right? So then the entire objective goes on a different tangent, and it becomes very difficult to then upgrade. So that's what I really meant by that. Now, yes, Dheeraj. So yeah, coming to the question again, that what workflows you felt had the maximum delta. You must have tried a bunch of things. Some would have worked, some would not work. But I want to talk about things that really worked in your head, wherein you have gotten any qualitative or quantitative delta.
So we've definitely had some wins on the labor side. It's a labor intensive business. A big chunk of our money gets spent. Labor productivity presence is something which can be suspect at times. So that is something that we did more than a year ago. We digitized that part of the process. We believe we have removed a part of our ghost payroll from there. We now have all of that data to start looking at the productivity gains, as to why is it that when I'm doing 6 floors in this building, I'm costing so much, whereas when I'm doing 3 floors in the other building where the conditions are similar, I'm not costing as much, right? So just because we have all of that data now, it allows us to question, and I'm very, very fond of looking at these numbers, is that the numbers will definitely tell you a story. The biggest issue companies in this business have, and I've spoken to people in other companies as well, is that they have so little data available, right? And it is with so little context that they can hardly make something of it. In colloquial terms, mota sab theek hai, but we must demand precision, right? Because when we are delivering the output, we are delivering precision. There is no reason why our processes needn't deliver precision, because that's where you will have the differentiating margin. That's where it is hidden. You need to extract that.
Yes. So there's definite goodness that you extracted out of removing or reducing ghost payroll from the labor productivity. Yes, that's definitely one. What else you would say?
We've always had a head start when it came to procurement, because like I said, we've had the ERP for several years now, and all of our purchases and finance was always on that. But what we did was that so I tell people is that almost exactly a year ago, we had about 15 people using the ERP. We now have close to 80 people, and all of the difference of 65 has come from the sites, right? So all of our site people have now been exposed to ERP. Our stores team is exposed to ERP, and the procurement chain, begins from the site. So the site team has access to our digitized BOQ. It has a sense of saying, what, if I must execute this much quantity of this number, this BOQ line item, I must manage within this kind of procurement quantity. And so they latch onto the same system where they then raise their indents. Those indents are then dealt by the purchase team. On the same purchase order, our store team starts doing the GRN, and that's something that we began maybe a quarter back, where the store teams was completely aloof. So we do that. Now we have brought our billing engineers, on the ERP. We are very, very focused on bringing a whole recon activity. I recall my chartered accountancy days where we used to look at standard costing, and then determining why did we not make as much as we thought we would make. Is the walk that we spoke about. So we are very, very focused on digitizing this whole recon activity.
You made a very big point here. You said that you have figured out a way to link your project progress to your procurement, to your cash flows, to your reconciliations, almost everything, almost like pursuing your progress as a North Star and linking everything behind it so that you are not overstuffing materials on site, you are not overpaying your suppliers, you are collecting your payments on time. So we also do believe that I think that's the area, that's the cornerstone of improvement of driving productivity and change management as well.
So I'll just point out that that's been our single biggest focus area right now as we speak. We haven't cracked the code, but we believe we will.
Yeah, so I do believe that we will also want to double click on this side in a bit. But let's just cover some of the areas that you're talking about. We talked about labor productivity, wherein you had quantitative ROIs. We talked about linking all the procurement, cash flows, reconciliation to the project progress. That's the second biggest bucket, wherein you had some success, you are looking for more. What else you would say? We can talk about the smaller workflows as well.
I think we are looking at utilizing our leftover material again, and that's where you would remember that we had a conversation. So that's where
management. Yes.
So those are our smaller wins. We're determining how much do we spend on our site, through the impressed management. Because again, I think we are of a size that if we don't get information in an intelligent, readable format, we will end up not making decisions. So we are using RDash, to digitize that part of the process, and it allows us to then start benchmarking. Why is it that I'm spending X amount on this size of the project vis-a-vis Y? There must be some relationships. Obviously, it's not always linear.
In fact, digitizing the site store management processes also have a qualitative win apart from quantitative. Because if you have a good trackability on your materials, then the trust around the procurement request and the turnaround on the procurement request can be made faster. Because then you don't need to go hands-on and you don't need a leadership call on every procurement decision. And if you have fixed the second part that you said, digitize everything behind the project progress. You can this will have a qualitative impact on the delivery speed, turnaround time, and the collaborations as well.
Absolutely. I used to recall from my audit days that if you don't have a very strong procurement process, everybody starts building a buffer. Right? So if there are three people involved, everybody would build some buffer in their drawer, and towards the end of it, you will have a lot of buffer left. right? Because they lack trust and predictability in the process. If I get what I demand, usually around the time I need it, and I know what I need, we will make smarter purchase decisions.
Yes. So we talked about labor productivity. We talked about pushing everything, or making site progress as a north star and building everything behind that. And then we talked about managing site store material inventory. Any other smaller wins?
I think my sense is one of the reasons we end up in dead expenses is the concept of rework. And rework sometimes gets induced by the client or the PMC, where if you track it well, you get paid. If you don't, you lose money. Rework also happens if we don't monitor our work well, or maybe there are some external situations, right? The reality is that we need to know what is the amount of rework we're incurring, right? And this is where the site management aspects of the application, something like an RDash would come handy. So we will end up knowing, we've got to be able to account for all of our losses, is what I say. Right?
Change order management is a pain, right? Because if you're doing a change order management, it is not just affecting your downstream, but also affecting your upstream, and it has to be reconciled both ways. So you've given us 4 big buckets of all the quantitative ROI in a design build setup in commercial fit out: labor productivity, material management, linking your cash flows to your progresses, to your site progress, and then change order management. And I think these are the big ones. There's a lot of management productivity gain that we can talk about, but let's talk about that in the further section. So now let's double click on the second bucket that you said around the site progress and the cash flow linkage being the backbone, right? How did you first of all arrived at this conclusion, as you said, that this is your current priority, that this majority of the effort is being put behind getting this right? How did you arrive at this conclusion? Maybe it could be a stint, but how did you come to this point of prioritizing this section heavily?
I think whatever we looked at told us very clearly that it is unconnected, right? And it is unconnected because there are multiple lags that run. If our weekly reporting is going to be manual, then obviously by the time it is ready, the week is over. You will see more pictures which will look nice to the client, but the hard data demonstrating whether you were 46% on execution and you were 48% on your measurements would not come through. So that, and like I'm saying, I'm qualifying, we have not cracked the code on this yet, but we're very confident that we will, right? But you need to start looking at, and I think you guys call it the installed revenue, right? So what is it that my operational update is saying, and what is it that my the billing engineer is saying? So one of the things that we want to do soon enough is to bring our measurement books on a digital platform. It's a very boring thing, right? It's just a summation of all that you measured at 10 different places. But if you bring it digital, it allows you to keep track of how much are you actually invoicing vis-a-vis how much you're completing at site. And it then also gives you a lot of data subsequently to see whether you actually build everything out, whether you have compared what you have billed to your customer versus what you're paying to the vendor. So a typical recon that would get done maybe 2 months after the project is over, by the time you've lost the ability to act on that data, you digitize and you can do it sooner, right? Because certain sections will get done. So you may finish the recon for those, determine if if there is an unbilled section of that, or if you've paid over and make efforts to recover, is something that is very, very key.
And also, Dheeraj, this is also the place wherein if you don't fix this part of the business, you can never delegate your business. Because if you don't have visibility, a clear visibility of what is the progress on your site, a single version of truth rather than multiple guys saying you different things, you're never going to be confident about your payment decision to your suppliers. Then the leadership will always be involved in every single small payment decisions. They would want to be high touch on every key site that they're running. Not from the operational point of view, but also from the smaller financial decisions like payment decision point of view as well. This is the place where the risk of executing projects also gets accumulated, because if you're not measuring your progress right, and you don't have right control on your cash flow or the money side processes, then you find surprisingly sometimes in a spot that now you've hit the 80% progress on the project and you have missed collecting your 60% milestone. Now you're running a project on 30% of the cash flow, and now the project is already delayed, and the customer is telling that, okay, now you are already delayed and there are quality issues, and he's further pressuring you. You don't have money to pay your suppliers. The suppliers are pressing you, and now you're in a very, very difficult position. And that's where the life become hell for almost every design build founder. I've been in that shoe myself, so I deeply, deeply empathize with this particular fact that if you don't fix your progress tracking, but if you don't know the actual real progress of the site, you can't really delegate the decision making on rest of the front. You will always has to be hands on, and you'll be managing risk close to the chest. So
Absolutely.
So we were talking the other day with a gentleman, Mr. Rajiv Bhatnagar. He's the head HR at L&T, and I was asking this question that why it is so that L&T construction is a clear standout. All the construction, other EPC and construction companies, what is so different about L&T that everyone else has not been able to crack? And they're big names, big houses. Reliance is doing it, Tata is doing it, right? Why is L&T the standout? And he said that the L&T has invested in processes and systems so that they have delegated financial decision making authority to mid management, and that's the recipe. And they have built the entire backend robust behind so that they can do that confidently, and that has had a far-reaching benefit. So do you resonate with this kind of a thinking? And in your world at Ambience Interior, how this practically spans out when you are going through the transformation objectives?
Obviously I'm not as qualified as that gentleman is, but my sense is that either you delegate decision making by design or it will happen by default. So if you do it by design, you will be able to control the outcome. You will be able to do it in a fashion that suits your business. But if you let it happen simply because the people above just have too much to do and they don't have the time, eventually it gets delegated because business is run. I mean, if it doesn't happen, then obviously business would stop running. So we are paying, like I said at the beginning, we are paying attention to building talent, building bench strength. I won't be very specific about it, but we are building talent across. We've hired a new HR leader who's helping us do that. Talent is scarce. There are many people, but talent is scarce. So we are paying a lot of attention to the point of how you delegate by design. There is no alternative to digitization. There is no alternative to bringing transparency of information. When I say transparency, I don't mean everybody knows everything, but everybody who needs to know something must know something, right? And then digitization actually then allows you to stop, someone peeking over the shoulder and getting access to information that he or she should not. Right? I mean, I come from banking background, and information classification, info security is very, very key there. So everybody is a need to know basis, and what you must need to know, system should make that available to you to do your job. Otherwise, you will end up burning a lot of your time
Yes.
that you would have spent on the floor supervising. You would end up spending scanning your emails, going through your 10 WhatsApp groups just to make a one intelligent email response to your PMC.
Yep. Yes. And in fact, now that we have touched about majority of the quantitative ROI of digitization, both on the cash flow side, both on the margin side, right? And we naturally headed towards all the qualitative benefits. So let's dwell a little deeper into that. When you look at, let's say, from a very zoomed out lens, if you again were to go there, like, what do you think is the biggest barrier that the industry is stuck, like, in doing things the way we are doing almost, let's say, 10 or 20 years ago?
I would internalize that and say a couple of things. Maybe one is over reliance on WhatsApp and Excel. WhatsApp lacks so much contextual grounding. You can get an update which will be good for maybe today or tomorrow, but if you wish to go back and analyze, it just isn't possible, right? So people still think that, my sense is that people who use technology also think that WhatsApp is easier. WhatsApp definitely is easier, but is it superior? Certainly not, right? It's not the long game. If you have to play the long game, you got to get out of that. The other thing, like early on you said, is that some people have tried. Some people have onboarded an app or a technology, but maybe left it midway. For a variety of reasons. A lot of founder-driven companies, founders have their hands full. They may have a vision, they may have very clear belief, but if they don't have the time, it will not trickle down. So you asked me a question, why is it that we have a specific department? That's precisely the reason. So our focus is very clear. So I and my team's focus is very, very clear. I'm
Yes.
not out there to add more business. I'm out there to make sure that whatever we get, we extract as much as we could have extracted out of that.
You are there for the bottom line, yes,
Yeah.
not the top line. Yes. So, Dheeraj, I just said that has a WhatsApp has been a tricky innovation for this space. Like it has almost before WhatsApp days, there was Primavera, there was Microsoft Project Planner. These were like the de facto tool. A project manager would typically learn in education and talk about how to plan everything, set a sequence, and track in an organized manner, report in an organized manner. But when I look at in the fit out space now, almost everybody who's working on ground has cultivated this habit of living by the day, right? You ask them what's happening today, they are 100% on it, even faster than they could ever been in the past. But kind of workload, the kind of burnout that everyone is going through has compounded a lot, and it has created a lot of silo sections of information. Like for every project there are 20 groups because you are having different kind of information massage to different kind of stakeholders, and at times you yourself get lost, right? What you have said to who, right? And then delegation becomes even more trickier because the guy who you are delegating to does not know that what you really expect out of him, right? You would not have given him any system and processes. Even the people who have spent 15-20 years on sites, have grown to significant position, they are also operating hands-on and at a similar footing compared to the guy who has spent 5 years, 10 years, right? So the progress of talent, the overall career ambition, all of these things are somewhere taking a hit because we have resorted to this practice of living by the day. Here, if you want to make some argument that what would be the crystallized form of solution to all these problems look like, not in terms of workflow but in terms of philosophical idea, that what really needs to change for this industry to get back on track.
I think you answered that about 12 odd minutes back, where you said single source of truth, right? That is necessary. I like directionally what RDash particularly is targeting, that you have the same information, I mean, whatever you wish to make available within that, the same information, maybe to your partners downstream and upstream. The reality is that the more layers of information or updates you provide, you start losing truth in the middle, right? In certain projects, not necessarily at our company, but certain projects are so large, the management layers are so many, that everybody wants to make it look good. By the time it gets to the top, it has no real issues left. The management not necessarily needs to know your accomplishments, that those are there to see. Management needs to know about issues, sooner than they become unmanageable. My sense is that digitization, if done right, allows you to create that information layer where you can pick and choose where you need to spend your time.
It is always said that and it is true as well, that construction project management does not revolve around technology. It revolves around people. Like people have to show up. There need to be energy. There needs to be loyalty. There needs to be energy, right? There needs to be trust amongst the stakeholders internally as well as externally, and that's the root cause of doing well. Even in the last 25 years, Ambience Interior has come so far. Technology was probably there for the last 6-8 years in bits and pieces, but largely it has been on the back of talent development, developing talent and retaining them as well, because it can quickly erode, and people, the low entry barriers industry, if the good guy is not trained and managed well, they're likely to not have a long run with you. So do you also think that this digitization and transformation efforts that you're running is helping in any indirect manner in talent development as well? And what areas would those be?
People or the generation who's ordering their food on Zomato, they need a digital environment to work. So if we get new talent, new people in, but put them on the old ways and methods of doing things, they will eventually get bored out, right? So it's like one solution, but we have to now cater exactly using that for 2, 3, 4 generations, right? I always say tenure is our friend and tenure is our adversary. When we're looking at digitization, for some people it's so easy to adopt. For some people, they know before you tell them, right? For some, it is difficult. So that's where we are doing a lot of thinking, and that's where our biggest challenge of change management lies. We're not troubled with the investment we need to make. We're not troubled with the amount of time we need to invest. I think we are challenged by the impact it has on our people who fall in different categories. People who come equipped, people who need to be made equipped, people who are open, people who are not yet open. How do we make that work?
This one is the change management aspect of it is about convincing people that there's merit in digitization while they believe that project happens the way it happens. And one is how do you convince that? And I would also want you to answer this question as well. But before that, can you also share like in what ways, let's say in 3 years, and we keep going the pace and the energy that we are currently going on with, how do you think this effort of yours within Ambience Interior will help in developing and retaining talent inside the company, assuming everything goes right as planned?
I think uh, developing is more in our control. Retaining, sometimes becomes a demand supply game. We are in more than one market. We exactly do the same things. We run the same processes, same methods, but we lose more people in another market than the other. How this will help is that this will help people see the bigger picture. It will help people grow faster, right? People who are graduating from one management layer to the above purely by tenure will have a breakthrough here, because they will be able to see that technology can give them that added advantage, right? Uh, Again, while I criticized WhatsApp, I think WhatsApp is also technology. WhatsApp digitized what was something else before. What
Yeah.
was a phone call is what WhatsApp did, right? So,
Yeah.
but it has its limitations. So that's how I see it. I mean, it definitely is going to be differentiated. Adoption of tech, modernizing the way we are doing things is a differentiator. Absolutely, why not? I mean, you look at the large global players who are trickling in, over last 5, 7, 10 years. My sense is that they are ahead. They are ahead in technology adoption and philosophical adoption of technology as well. I mean, if you got to compete with people, firms like those, you've got to give the same environment.
In fact, you made a very valid point in terms of the management, you can say, or you can say the career progression of a person based on tenure. That the construction industry is also very famous for very tenure-led payout, right? How much years you have spent in a particular role largely bucketize your payout. This is not how it is in technology. This is not how it is in FMCG or D2C or any other progressive sector. I think this is one of very few sector wherein we are stuck at the same level. And if you can break that barrier, right, wherein you can have information flowing, one guy who's working under a project manager, who's working under a project head, who is working under a VP, who is working under CEO. There are 5 layers between an entry-layer project engineer and the CEO. How this entry-layer engineer shines in the company? There's no way, right? Currently, there's no way. Now, if you build these kind of systems, the systems actually allow you to have smart guys, put them on a pedestal on projects, track who is doing what, and then give them a fast track journey and have high horsepower, smarter people driving key roles and decisions and build a foundation of massive exponential growth. That's how practically L&T has done it. And that's, I think, the way to go as well. So that's also some of the insights that I got from conversing with Mr. Rajiv in the last chat. So you said that tenure is a friend and an enemy, right? Putting tenure aside, let's say for a moment, when you look at from the lens of a project manager, the guy is on ground. He is coordinating all day in, day out with vendors, with materials, with client, right? Banging his head with labor and supervisor, right? And he is reporting everything that is required to be reported on WhatsApp in a very visual and very contextual way to his seniors and who's sort of asking for it, right? In his head, he is doing the best he can, right? And now we come to him that no, 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 all you're doing is fine, but you need to punch your data here in this format. And this guy believes that okay, management is asking me to log numbers, which is of no use to project delivery. That's a tacit, unsaid feeling all across when this kind of initiative hits the ground, right? I'm sure you must have experienced it. How do you convince your project managers around the merit of doing this?
That's a challenge. There is no easy answer there. Um, However, the attempts that we're making is we show it to them. We show it to them saying that this point of data that they entered here will help us at three different places elsewhere. Not everybody wants to see it also. So while we may be ready to show it, not everybody is ready to see it as well. But like you said, and like everywhere else, the smarter people will see it. The smarter will people will see it as an aid to them, and not necessarily an issue for them. There is also some structural work that you've got to do, that if we are getting them to spend more time, we've got to lighten up somewhere else, right? If we can demonstrate that as and when they participate in this, X number of their other problems will get solved, where they will not have to have someone sit down on an Excel file and start tracking when their requisitions were raised and when the material was delivered, what was the quantity delivered. They will see the business. They will see the business objective behind it. So it's got to be logic, and it's got to be give and take.
Very well pointed out as well that the project managers would definitely may look at it as extra work, but he's also getting to know whether the procurement order has been released without actually calling for it. He's getting to know how the design has changed, how the invoice has been, how the cash flows are. So he's also getting the other aspects of visibility he needed without calling anyone. So it's basically almost like enabling teamwork. As they say, it's not like a construction project management, not a relay race. It's a synchronized orchestra wherein one person is doing things in a certain manner, not only to improve his method or his working, is largely to improve team's productivity by giving other people visibility in his work and then improving the better coordination. So, but yeah, as you said, it's challenging. That's where the tenure becomes sometimes your enemy. And I hope
I said adversary.
Yeah, adversary is the right word. Yes. Yes. I think, with compounding educations and talks like this, the understanding will get cemented and more alignment will come on that side. Last question, Dheeraj, on this aspect of what you stand to gain on digitalization is, we talked about quantitative benefits, we talked about qualitative benefits, we talked about impact on talent, we talked about change management. Do you also think there is a role to play from digitalization perspective, honing the relationship with your suppliers and having a deeper and a bigger supplier network to be managed?
Oh, beyond doubt. Which supplier wants you to call them 10 times a day for information that they have sent to you, 10 days ago? Day-to-day tactical contact is always transactional. If you are digitized, if your partner is digitized, you're synchronized, you would end up sitting down and seeing what is the kind of business you're doing with each other, and how much time you have to expand that, to learn from each other, right? Deals today still, for small, medium vendors are very, very transactional. When I get a project and I need you, I'll call you, right? Because otherwise I'm too busy. I'm too busy managing my day to day, right? Digitization allows you to set a routine in place where you end up developing your network, beyond doubt. And maybe it's very, very a very light way to say it, and it kind of at least sums up what goes on in my mind is that a very senior person, who I'm very pally with in the company, once said, but we are not an MNC. And I said, but no one is stopping us to become one, right? What digitization does is it puts a lot of method into the madness, right? Because once you're standardizing, once you're implementing one way of doing things, it allows you to question and then simplify. I think that's beneficial in the very, very long run.
So, Dheeraj, I think that's largely it from my side in terms of how to approach digitization, what ROI to expect, and what are some of the challenges behind it and ways to tackle them. Now, just zooming out, we are absolutely loving working with you and Ambience Interior. We love the energy, we love the thought process, and this is what we stand for, and this is what you are driving. So it's been a great experience of last 6 months working in close quarters with you. We also learned and sharpened a lot of things in our product, specifically for this commercial design build sector. And a lot of things we even prioritize in our roadmap, having to know that what is the real impact on ground. We are super, super excited. How excited you are about this sector that you are working in, where this sector is headed, right? Or what do we expect for fellow founders and promoters who are building and design build companies? How the macroeconomic factors look like? Do you feel it growing? Do you feel it contracting? What are your thoughts?
Like I said earlier, I have limited experience in this space, but my sense is that companies will become more organized. There is
Consolidation of demand will happen.
Consolidation should happen. The market will expand.
Yes.
What we are seeing is the large companies are still largely in tier one cities, but I think no one is monitoring tier two and tier three. The real explosion will take place. This is a very, very aspirational market. When you're looking at a functional office, you're just doing your job. When you're looking at a very nice office, it's a very, very aspirational space. So big will get bigger. Technology will take a leap forward. I have absolutely no doubt that we ourselves will make a lot more stuff with you and other players. Eventually, people will latch on to it. I also hope to see some of the large Indian companies who've now been doing business in India for 25, 30 years to actually branch out. So there are very, very few names who've gone into some markets, but large players, very established players are still very, 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 very India bound.
There are a couple of macro factors to it. There's a clear projection that India is going to be the second biggest market for construction, surpassing US by 2030. We have been on that trend. And in fact, there's an interesting fact. A gentleman from JLL was sharing the other day that around 1950s, when this industrialization technology came about, in United States, 50% of the resource manpower was engaged in the agriculture sector. And when the industrialization was happening, there was a fear that all these jobs will go away and people will go jobless. Now, cut to now, there's less than 1% of the people work in agriculture sector there in that country. So how is the rest of the 99% of the pool is employed? They're employed in the new sectors and opportunity with industrialization created. Now, with the advent of AI, we expect the same, that it will create far more jobs than the jobs it will replace. So we don't see sector in all major estimates and in all logical arguments, we don't see the sector contracting. We see it expanding. We see it in expanding material SKU set. We see it in global demand. We see it in India's in infrastructure and economic planning. There's 100 smart city mission that India is progressing on. So yeah, future is bright, and I hope that is even brighter for Ambience Interior. And kudos to the great work you are doing, Dheeraj, at Ambience. Thank you for joining us today. We'll just briefly pause for a while and see if the audience here has some questions to ask. We are joined by a good number of viewers. So if somebody wants to ask anything, I'll request them to put the question in the chat, and I'll ask the moderator to probably unmute the person and have a live interaction. If someone wants to ask anything from Mr. Dheeraj, please go ahead.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are audible now.
Sir, I am Poonam Sairam from Rajwood Art Interiors Limited.
Okay, hi Poonam.
So, hi sir. So I want to ask Dheeraj sir, like before they implemented RDash, the data was haywire. It was like not at one place and not helping them analyze it so properly for them to make decisions. But when they actually implemented this completely, what came as a big surprise to them? Like sometimes you think, okay, you are not losing so much money in purchase or as a labor expense or something. But when that data actually came to you, what came as the major surprise to you? Like where the company is losing money because of not being digitalized, and how did RDash actually help you overcome it?
What RDash is allowing us to do is to get some answers that we have never known, and it's not always about where we are losing money. It's also about where our opportunities lie. But very clearly, once the numbers become available, the numbers can help you decipher a lot of things. So, for example, we were speaking about talent, right? The numbers can help you decipher, saying how is one project manager performing vis-a-vis the other. How
Yeah.
how your expense ratios, your waste ratios allow you to compare performance across projects. We have not had very big surprises using just RDash thus far. Because and Amit would agree with me, is that we have been very measured in the adoption of RDash. We are still digitizing certain other sections of our databases. Hopefully, our roadmap coincides with Amit's roadmap, and we bring most of those things also on RDash. The simple availability of data opens up a lot of eyes.
Yeah.
We know which part of the business we are losing. We know which project we have lost a little bit more money. We know where we could have tightened our belt, etc., etc.
Okay, sir. And does it actually one thing that like converting your BOQ to exact requirements? It's one challenge that a lot of people face. Did you get any help like with this software? Did you get any help with that also?
Yes, so that is one part of the business. We are using our legacy system to do it, and on that we are able, with a very high degree of confidence, we are able to project our procurement requirements for any BOQ item, and at a consolidated project level as well. We've been discussing that with Amit and his team, and they have it in their roadmap to bring it up there as well, with a little bit of AI also thrown in.
Yes.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mohan. Mr. Devendra is asking, what is the impact of digitization on pricing and client trust?
Beyond doubt. My general take is people contemplate far too long, saying, should I implement technology or should I continue the way I am? And I go back to the same example. You've started ordering your groceries and your food on technology, and you're still doing business manually. It doesn't make intuitive sense, right? It will be a journey that you will have to undertake. You may not see results on day one, but you've got to go on that path. There is absolutely no doubt about that. Don't take too long in determining which app or which technology.
That's very well said. Thank you, everyone. I think we are way over time, and thank you, Mr. Dheeraj, for taking so much time out and having this chat with us.
Thanks, Amit, for having me.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was a fantastic conversation. We'll have a recording available, which will be sent to all the people who are registered for the webinar, and will also be there on our YouTube link. And if someone wants to follow through on these conversations or some of the aspects, please feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn, either myself or Dheeraj. We'll be happy to have a follow-on chat.